Hey BBYO, I'm Kobi Weitzman from Gold Coast region. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing legendary actor, director, and producer Giancarlo Esposito, who has been a major force in the entertainment world for decades. Your roles in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul have become legendary. What drew you to the character of Gus Fring, and how did you shape his chilling, composed persona?
Gus Fring was a very interesting character to me because I could choose how I wanted to play him. And I went into that show as a guest star and just expected to do one episode. And I turned them down in the beginning because I felt like part of it was I had done someone similar to that and I didn't know where it was going, but I decided to go and do it, and which led them to ask me to play more. How I created him in terms of his persona, and that's Vince Gilligan who said, you created this character, is that I wanted to be somehow different. I wanted to be a complicated human being who cared about people on one side, his workers, but who was doing something nefarious on the other. And who, in a weird way, empowered his workers to be fastidious and clean and do all these things, but yet he had other motivations. And so it was a layering of the character that really intrigued me and allowed me to be more real, I think, than you've seen stereotypical villains be in the past.
So you almost put your soul into his character.
I did. I mean, I have this saying, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And so to me, as an actor, you want to lose yourself in the character, but you also want to bring a part of you. Because for me, what I do is an investigation of me. And I think that life is that. We only see our lives through our own eyes, right? We live in this body. We have to learn to accept other people's points of view and not judge them and understand them. But we may not have the full understanding of that because we haven't lived their life. So when you live your life, then you sometimes build up some residue. And so for me, with each character, I'm discovering, working through some trauma, working through anger issues, working through whatever it might be, that, observations of my parents and how they got along and interacted that I didn't approve of, but could never say that because they're my parents. But now, as I go through characters I play, I see the mirror image of parts of my life, so it helps me to exercise some of those demons.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you've portrayed some intense and complex characters. Is there a role or genre you haven't explored yet but would like to take on?
There's a horror genre. I did a film called Abigail, and I had a nice little part in that, which I enjoyed. I did Maxine, which is semi-horror, but I want to do something genre like a horror film. So I've optioned a Stephen King short story to kind of explore that and tell that story for me. There's also a rom-com. When do you see people of a mature age who may be divorced and have children who want to have romance in their life? So I'm developing a rom-com for myself because no one's seen me do that kind of comedy, and especially in a romantic way. That would be fun.
Really adding that extra layer to that comedy.
Absolutely.
That'd be really cool. Now for my next question. So you've worked across film, television, and theater for nearly 5 decades. What has been the most transformative role or project in your career, and why?
I have to say there have been a number of them. I did a film called Monkey Bone, which is really interesting to me because I was playing a satyr, and I had to walk on my knees with a goat body hanging in front of me and a 4.5-hour makeup. And playing a character like that who was half man, half goat was interesting to me because it spurred my imagination about kind of a fairy tale world in which it was set, partially. Gustavo Fring, the Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul allowed me to explore the world of that nefarious drug dealers, the Salamanca family, the world of Better Call Saul, of course, dealt with Saul Goodman and his world of being a shyster lawyer, but all very human stories that center around people and their relationships. And so those kind of stories always change my view of the world dramatically because it allows me to see things in a different way.
That's really interesting. So earlier, I was in your Lee Mood session, and I heard about your connection to Judaism, and I was really interested about it. Would you be able to go into another layer and deeper into this area?
Well, I grew up in a Catholic church, and so I started to really wonder about what So first, I grew up in the Baptist church. My mother was a Baptist, a Southern Baptist, a holy roller who spoke in tongues and did all these things. And she would go to the Full Gospel Businessmen's Association in New York, and they would tarry, much like Jewish people do, in front of the Wailing Wall. So there was this whole connection. And so then I went to all-Catholic school, and I became an altar boy. And then I went to an all-Catholic military school, so I became an altar boy soldier. And then I sat down and read a book called The Religions of Man, which then taught me about Jainism, Hinduism, all these different religions in one book. And I started to think, oh, it's all one road. So then why is the world fighting? Like, I didn't understand after reading that book how we could be in strife over having freedom to worship the way we want, no matter our idea of what God is. And it's still something that makes me scratch my head today. Like, how could you fight and have jihads in God's name? Like, it's just so stupid to me. Like, there's something about that fanatical way of thinking that everyone has to believe what I believe. And so we can't agree to disagree and still leave each other alone to worship as we please. So that became very important to me. So when I went to Israel, it changed my life again. Because yes, I'm connected to the story of Jesus. That was my connection into that whole world of Judaism. But I realized after having many Jewish friends and going to synagogue, I realized their devout devotion. And I went, oh, I get it. Like, I'm that kind of person who I carry Rudraksha malas where I'm doing like rosaries, but I'm doing that mostly all day. It's reminding me of God. It's the same thing that Jews do. Like, it's not leaving that out of their life. So I carry that with me. So after years of visiting friends in synagogue and going to Jewish weddings and all this, I realized my practice is very much like theirs, and I admired it. I admired that they kept the spiritual essence to their lives, because I believe personally that that's all we have. Little do we know, we're trying to make money and have families and do all these other things. But when that is there as first, foremost, and paramount, then I believe my life is better, because I'm remembering something that's been a thread through all of my ancestry. Doesn't matter if my father was an agnostic. Doesn't matter if my brother doesn't believe. Doesn't matter, if there are family members who drop the ball on their devotion. What matters is that I found it. And then I realized it's all sort of an illusionary play of consciousness, and that if you have that as your guide, there's some other solace, peace, and strength that you gain from it. And it's the knowledge that it's all going to be all right, and that you are a channel for good in bottom line. And if you can take all of that, so in the Baptist church, my mother had a saying like, we go to church on Sunday, and many religions do this, but the rest of the week, or you go to Sabbath on Saturday, you go to synagogue, but the rest of the week, you do whatever you want, right? And so in the Baptist church, you go to church and hear a great sermon, and then you start smelling the chicken from downstairs, because their tradition is to cook some chicken and some food. And then by the time church is over, everyone's bumping each other out of the way to get down to the chicken and okra and fried beans, right? So where did God go? Where did you let that go, right? So I start to see these things in our world and respect, especially a people who stay close to their roots and honor their heritage.
I really love that. So it's not only that you have a connection to these religions and people, but you're almost like a mosaic of all these different paths and religions that you have a connection with.
There's no doubt about it. I got to say that I was blessed to go visit a sheikh in Saudi Arabia. And I escaped the security guards one day, and because I heard the call to prayer. And the call to prayer was so deep for me, like just the sound of it. That I walked 3 blocks. They did find me. Someone was following me, and there was a pile of shoes. And I walked in, and I just sat on the floor and did what they did, because it was the same kind of very deep worship, and I related to it. And so it meant something to me. Years later, I had the opportunity to go and visit this sheikh. I wound up going to another city, and I wound up at midnight one night going to Mecca with a princess who invited me. And to me, it was like such a beautiful experience to be able to witness, again, how people deeply worship something that's bigger than they are, but a guiding force within their lives.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So for my last question, many BBYO teens are aspiring actors, filmmakers, and storytellers. What advice would you give to young creatives trying to break into the industry?
I would say you have all the tools to do it in your hand. You know, the beginning, I mean, so I saw a film a few months ago by Christopher Nolan. It's called Following. It was made for $6,000. Following. It's on HBO now. No, it's on Netflix. It is such a good movie made in black and white. It's so interesting and so great. So you have a phone, and that iPhone can begin to tell your story if you have a story. So I suggest to people who are trying to get in the business is to tell their story, the story of their family, the story of their upbringing, the story of a moment in their life that impacted them deeply, whether it be traumatic or otherwise, to write that story and be that the first story that you tell. So you have all the tools, but I think it's to really get an education as to what film is and how to tell a story on film. And that means going to film school or making a film and being in the trenches to learn. Your curiosity will guide you. And then be committed. And once you do that, once you make something, then you have confidence and you can do it again on a bigger level because it's the same toolbox. It's the same set of building blocks. It just gets bigger and more expanded as you know and learn more. But it's commitment. You know, doing what I do alone, and I make film now myself, I'm a director, I'm a producer, takes dedication and sacrifice. And that, you know, that is what it takes. It takes commitment, dedication, and sacrifice. So if you're willing to do the hard work, then it'll come. So often we get thrown off by wanting to be a star, a celebrity, wanting to be noticed, and everyone wants to be seen. There's no doubt. I'd want to be seen just as a human being. Everyone sees me as Gustavo Fring. So if you just see me as a human being, that would be kind of great now because I become famous as Gustavo Fring, as Moff Gideon, as Stan Edgar, all these characters, and people think that's my name. And that's okay. But in that we all want to be seen, we want our work to be seen. I want to leave a legacy behind that moves people, that allows them to see who I am truly inside me. And so that takes, to tell those stories, takes even double the amount of courageous work, dedication, and sacrifice. I'm good enough to be able to be in a Marvel movie, and Electric State's coming out for Netflix, The Residence is coming out for Netflix, all within this next month. And those are roles that, yes, they called me, I wanted to do because I felt something for them. But when you tell your own story, it means more to you. So tell your own story. Young filmmakers who want to do what they do, don't ever forget your own story. Your own story is the most important story to tell.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So that's all the time we have for today. Giancarlo, it's been an absolute honor to chat with you about your incredible career and the meaningful work you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, and I hope to see you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.